Yeah. So, looking through the current issue, the winter issue of the Trends Journal, there's, a couple things that really jumped out at me. One in particular, as you're talking about, what we're going to see in the next year, suspicions of the soundness of the banking system. You bank at KeyBank, and you went to them and said that you wanted to withdraw basically all the cash in your checking account, which I'm assuming was more than the either $5,000 or $10,000 threshold that triggers the federal government looking into what you're up to, and that the bank, you tell the story.
Well, they gave me the runaround. The day before I was going to take it out, I called my regional manager up, and I told him I wanted it out, and I wanted it in hundreds. And he called me back inside of 5 minutes, and he said, well, we can't get hundreds. And, me being me, I said, don't give me that baloney. This is Key Bank. What do you have, $100 billion? You're telling me you have a backing your system, and you can't come up with hundreds?
Yeah.
We'll rustle them up. So the next day I go to the bank manager up where I am, and
who has been notified in advance you're coming.
Oh yeah, the day before.
Yeah.
To prepare for this.
Yeah.
And she said to me, well, we're not ready. Could you come back in in 2 hours? And I said, fine. I said, I want to make this clear. I want this money in hundreds, and I want it today. And I said, it's nothing to do with personalities here. This is just business.
Right.
Those are my words. And I come back 2 hours later, and they put me through this whole rigmarole. Now they're asking me, where do I live? Where do I work? What's my occupation? On and on and on. And then they give me this form to fill out. This is KeyBank Securities form. The last question of this, so help me God, is that you will be in possession of a large sum of money, and you can be you can be prey for a robber. Words of that type.
So you're acknowledging your own liability?
Yeah. That I could be robbed, and if I'm robbed, they usually don't find the robber, and I'll lose the money, and KeyBank won't be responsible, and I should think again about keeping it there. I said, what am I, 2 years old? You're telling me this stuff? And I have to sign this thing? After I sign this, then they come back to me and say, we need your driver's license. Now, all this stuff is on their records, and this is around the corner from my business. I'm there a couple of times a week. So I went back and I got one of my colleagues. I said, you better come back with me. I said, because there's going to be trouble over here, and I want a witness. So I wanted a witness to see all this happen. Well, I bring him back with me, and more questions. This is going on now for 20 minutes or more. Finally, this woman puts up a bag of cash on the counter. She slams it down and said, "Here's your X amount of thousands of dollars," so that the whole bank heard it. And I look at this bag, and it's filled mostly with 20s.
KeyBank's revenge. How dare you ask for cash?
How dare you ask for cash? I only keep operating expenses in the banks.
Right.
Because one of the trends we're looking at in 2009, as you mentioned, we took out the domain name, the panic of '08 last year. Well, we took out the domain name, the collapse of '09. The system is collapsing. It will not be saved by printing more money or lowering interest rates to -0 if there's such a thing. So what we're saying is that you just saw the retail sector, the holiday season, go bust. Depressionary downs. You're looking at women's apparel off 23%. You're looking at home electronics down 27%. Luxury items, that's a big one. That's a harbinger. Down 35% because this thing is hitting people from the top down. It's not these people that were worth $50, $100 million, and it's not like they had them in big ones in a vault someplace in Switzerland. They had them invested with the Lehman boys, the Merrill Lynch mob. They
and
had
Bernie Madoff.
Gang.
Yeah. So the upshot is that, and in fact, I noticed that the Dow is down 36% for the year. The Dow in 1931 dropped 40%, 40.6%.
Exactly, and the Dow was down as much as 50% back to as only as November 20th. So the point that we're saying, Tom, is that the retail sector, what you're going to start seeing is more and more store closings, loads of them, thousands.
Now, there's a silver lining to this, Gerald. This is a great time for people like you and me who have a long history of entrepreneurial activity. There's going to be a lot of really cheap commercial real estate out there, and if you've got a good idea for a local business that can capture a local market, this is a time of opportunity.
This is a time not for the real estate, but for the local market. You hit it. For example, Starbucks closing stores. It has more to do with predatory practices of driving out the competition than consumer demand. Yeah, consumers can't afford $4 coffee, but they are going to still go and buy coffee, but they're going to go to places with unique character and unique characters, and maybe the place for the greatest crumb bun, the best piece of apple pie. People will go distances for the best of the best. The bigs are falling. It's a time for the smalls to fill the gaps. But it has to be done with an entrepreneurial spirit and a quality. Quality is key in the greatest depression.
Right. So much like, when Reagan intentionally stopped enforcing the Sherman Antitrust Act, which had been on the books since 1881, and that led to the M&A fever, the mergers and acquisition fever of the 80s, with the rise of Michael Milken's and these huge empires and the media empires and all these other empires, and basically enormous consolidation. Prior to 1980, you could drop out of an airplane at 70,000 feet and land in any kind of random spot in the United States, look around at the strip malls, and within a few minutes figure out where you were, because most of the businesses were local. Post-1990, just 10 years later, you could do that same thing, and every strip mall you dropped into, whether it was in California, Tennessee, or New York, no matter where it was, you would see the exact same stores because of this enormous consolidation. Even though it's not being politically unwound, it's now being economically unwound because we failed to do it the right way, so the market is doing it for us.
Well, yeah, what's bad for Wall Street is great for Main Street.
Yeah.
They're the ones that gave the money to these giants to be developing, and then the politicians, they're the ones that give them all of these tax breaks, loan guarantees, build their infrastructure for them with our money, and they've driven Main Street out of business. Main Street's going to make a comeback. This is going to be a time, as I said, it's going to be painful for a lot of people. But what we do, the purpose of our work is to identify the trends so that people could take proactive measures, not to frighten them, but to let them know that, look, trouble's ahead, the ship is sinking, here are some lifeboat strategies. And the other areas, by the way, if your kid's going to school, this isn't to college, and they're going for degrees in business administration, marketing, humanities, sociology, psychology, art history, think about saving your money. This isn't the time to do that. They're not going to get jobs in those fields upon graduation. If they have a real keen interest in business, let them go for an apprenticeship, not the Donald Trump kind of garbage, but real apprenticeships, and in all of those fields.
Yeah, and medicine and tech
and
engineering.
The hard sciences.
Yeah.
And by the way,
Gerald, we just have 30 seconds left. Busch Gardens, you're saying, and the great college crash, I guess you just covered, but you're saying people are going to be planting victory gardens, as it were.
Yes,
Busch
Gardens, we're going to call
them
them Busch Gardens because people are going to say, how did they get their names? And they say, this guy destroyed the economy, and we had to survive, so that's why we had to eat. And no, the edible landscaping, it's going to be a big trend. People are going to be slimming down economically and health-wise as well to stay healthy in the coming times, emotional, spiritual, physical health.
There you go. Gerald Celente, the director of the Trends Research Institute, trendsresearch.com, the new Trends Journal, the top trends of 2009. You can check it out. You can subscribe at their website, trendsresearch.com. Gerald, thanks for dropping by today.
Hey, thank you, and Happy New Year.
Thank you, and Happy New Year to you, too. Always good talking with you. 16 minutes past the hour, 866-303-2270. Your call's up next.